One of the biggest misunderstandings men have when it comes to women is thinking that you need to look a certain way, have a certain amount of money, or perform some magic trick to win them over. But what most men overlook is far more powerful and honestly, much simpler. If you want to get what you want from women almost every time, you have to start by understanding what they truly value, not what social media tells you, not what some red pill influencer is preaching. I mean, what women actually respond to on a human, emotional level. At the core, women value connection. They're drawn to men who are emotionally aware, confident in themselves, and real, not some over-the-top alpha caricature or overly polished nice guy. Real. Because let's face it, any woman who's truly worth your time, who values herself, is not going to be manipulated by surface level tactics. She's tuned in to something deeper. That's what you need to connect with. When a woman feels like you understand her, or at least that you're trying to, you're already standing out from the pack. And that doesn't mean agreeing with everything she says or pretending to like yoga when you'd rather be watching football. It means showing up with presence. It means paying attention to how she feels, not just what she sees. Most men don't do that. They're too busy thinking about how to impress her, how to win her over, how to game her. But the real power, it's in your ability to tune in, to be intentional in your presence. Let's talk about emotional intelligence for a moment. This is a game changer. It's the ability to read the room, to understand subtle cues in body language, in tone, in energy. When you can sense what, unless they're words, a woman is feeling, not just hearing her words, but reading between the lines, you gain an incredible advantage. You're not reacting, you're responding. There's a big difference. Women notice this instantly. It tells them you're grounded, that you're someone who can handle them, their emotions, their complexities, without running away or trying to shut them down. Now, confidence, let's strip away all the hype. Real confidence is not loud. It's not about bragging or dominating a room. Real confidence is silent, steady. It's in how you walk, how you speak, how you look someone in the eye without flinching. It's in how comfortable you are being exactly who you are, even if that means being a little quirky, even if that means saying something that's not perfect. Women can feel this. They feel it. And when they sense it, they start to relax. Their guard drops, their curiosity grows, and suddenly you're the one she's leaning into. And then there's authenticity. Let me say this clearly. Women are masters at sensing inauthenticity. You might fool her for a moment, but she'll feel when you're pretending. So don't pretend. If you're nervous, own it. If you're excited, show it. If you have an opinion, speak it respectfully. Authenticity is magnetic. It creates a kind of raw honesty that women find incredibly attractive because it gives them permission to show up authentically too. And in a world where everyone is filtering themselves, online and offline, that kind of honesty is rare. It stands out. It builds trust. Now, I know some guys will say, well, I've done all that and still get rejected. And yeah, sometimes you will. That's life. But let's not confuse rejection with failure. Most of the time, what seems like rejection isn't about you not being good enough. It's about alignment. Maybe she wasn't ready. Maybe she had her own stuff going on. That's okay. But here's the truth. When you consistently show up as a grounded, emotionally intelligent, confident, and authentic man, the right women will respond. And they'll do it fast. That's how you get what you want, by giving what's real. Because when a woman feels seen, not just looked at, but really seen, she lets her guard down. When she senses you're not playing a role, but showing her your truest self, she becomes more open, more generous, more willing to give. And giving you what you want, it's not about her being manipulated. It's about her feeling safe enough to choose it for herself. So don't chase validation. Don't mold yourself to what you think she wants. And definitely don't put on a mask. Instead, understand what truly matters to her on a human level. That's the door. That's the key. And most men never even knock. That's how you start getting what you want from the right women. Almost every time, if there's one thing that separates men who effortlessly connect with women from those who constantly feel like they're hitting a wall, it's this. The ability to communicate with clarity and confidence. Not charm, not cheesy pickup lines, not overthinking every word. Just clear, confident, honest communication. And the reason it works so powerfully is because it tells a woman exactly what she needs to feel safe, respected, and certain about who she's dealing with. Let's start with something that gets overlooked all the time, saying what you actually mean. You'd be surprised how many men struggle with this. They speak in circles, try to guess what she wants to hear, or worse, hide their real intentions out of fear of rejection. And I get it. Putting yourself out there can feel risky, but let me be real with you. Nothing kills attraction faster than indecision and hesitation. Women don't respond to vague, they respond to direct. That doesn't mean you need to be aggressive or forceful. It means you need to be intentional and honest about what you want, what you think, and how you feel. When you walk into a conversation with a woman, whether it's the first time or the 100th, don't be afraid to express yourself clearly. If you're interested, say so. If something bothers you, say so. Not in a way that's confrontational, but in a way that says, I value myself and I respect you enough to be honest. That's what confidence looks like in real life. It's not about volume or posture, it's about certainty. It's the energy behind your words. And speaking of energy, confidence isn't about dominating the conversation, it's about how you carry yourself in the conversation. The urgency, are you present, or are you stuck in your head trying to predict her reaction? Are you engaging or are you performing? Women can sense the difference immediately. They know when you're trying too hard versus when you're grounded in who you are. And they're far more likely to open up to someone who brings a calm, confident presence rather than someone who feels like they're auditioning. Here's something else a lot of men forget. Confidence and clarity don't mean talking nonstop. They don't mean trying to sound smart or impressive. In fact, some of the most powerful moments in communication come from silence, listening more than you speak. When you speak, do so with purpose. When you listen, do so with your full attention. That balance is what creates connection. Another big part of communicating clearly is letting go of the fear of saying the wrong thing. Look, you're going to say the wrong thing sometimes. That's life. What matters more is how you handle it. Do you shrink, apologize excessively, or do you own it, clarify, and move forward with grace? A woman is far more impressed by a man who can handle a moment of awkwardness with ease than one who tries to be perfect and ends up being robotic. And let's talk about tone for a second. The way you say something can often be more important than what you say. If your voice is shaky, rushed, or hesitant, it gives off uncertainty. On the other hand, when your voice is calm, steady, and relaxed, even if you're saying something simple, it lands differently. It creates trust. Women are naturally tuned in to emotional tone. They're not just hearing your words, they're feeling them. So take your time, speak slower, let your words breathe, let her feel the intention behind them. When you express your needs or desires to a woman, do it with respect. Don't manipulate. Don't guilt trip, and don't try to convince her into something. Simply be honest and ask. Whether it's more time, more affection, more support, be specific and grounded in your delivery. When a woman knows where you stand without needing to decode your every word, she feels more secure around you, and the more secure she feels, the more she opens up, gives, and invests in the dynamic you share. What you'll start to notice when you communicate this way is that things flow more naturally. There's less resistance, fewer arguments, fewer mixed signals, because women don't want to play games any more than you do. They just want to feel like they're dealing with a man who knows who he is, knows what he wants, and knows how to express it in a way that's real and respectful. So if you want to get what you want from women consistently, stop second-guessing yourself. Stop waiting for the perfect words. Start being clear. Start being bold, and let your confidence speak louder than any script ever could. Speak like a man who's already earned her respect. One of the most powerful shifts you can make in how you relate to women, really in how you relate to anyone, is learning to listen to understand, not just to respond. And I know that might sound simple, even obvious, but trust me, most people never actually do this, especially men. We're often wired to fix, to solve, to jump in with answers. But when it comes to building real connection with a woman, that instinct can get in the way more than it helps. See, women don't always want solutions. They want to feel heard, fully, without interruption, without judgment, without being made to feel like their emotions are inconvenient. And when a man knows how to hold space for a woman, when he truly listens with presence and patience, he creates something incredibly rare. He creates safety, and safety is the soil where trust, intimacy, and cooperation grow. Too often men approach conversations with women like it's a problem-solving session. She brings up a challenge and immediately the guy jumps into, here's what you should do. It comes from a good place, usually. We want to help, we want to feel useful. But what we miss is that sometimes the most helpful thing you can do isn't to give advice, it's to listen. Really listen with your body language, with your eyes, with your silence. There's a kind of magic that happens when you allow a woman to speak freely and you resist the urge to direct the conversation. She starts to soften. She starts to feel seen. And when a woman feels seen, she becomes more generous, more open, more willing to give you exactly what you want, because you've already given her what she needs, attention and presence. Now here's where it gets real. Listening to understand requires you to stop thinking about your next move. It means you drop the ego, the urge to impress, the itch to be right. It's not passive. It's not sitting there nodding while you're just waiting for your turn to speak. No, it's active, it's intentional. It means you're leaning in, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. You're asking questions, not to challenge her, but to go deeper into her experience. You're saying things like, tell me more about that, or how did that make you feel? And when she answers, you're not rushing to comment. You're just being there with her in the moment. That kind of attention is rare. That kind of listening is powerful. And it doesn't just create emotional connection, it builds influence. Because once a woman feels you're someone who gets her, she starts to trust you. And when trust is present, she's more receptive, more responsive, and more likely to meet you halfway, whether that's emotionally, romantically, or even sexually. You're not taking anything from her. You're creating an experience where she wants to give. And let's not forget, listening like this also gives you better information. You start to see who she really is, what matters to her, what triggers her, what lights her up. You learn how to communicate more effectively because you're picking up on what resonates and what doesn't. Most men miss this entirely. They focus so much on what they're going to say that they miss what she's already telling them without words. Body language, tone, silence. These are all part of the conversation. And if you're paying attention, they'll tell you everything you need to know. Sometimes a woman will say she's fine, but her tone says she's not. Sometimes she says yes, but her body tenses up. And if you're really listening, not just with your ears, but with your awareness, you'll catch it. You'll be able to ask the right follow-up question. You'll be able to slow down instead of pushing forward. That's how connection deepens. That's how trust is reinforced. Let me be clear. This isn't about becoming passive. It's not about walking on eggshells or becoming overly cautious. It's about being present and tuned in. It's about recognizing that when you take the time to understand where a woman is coming from, she becomes far more likely to understand you when it's your turn to speak. It becomes a two-way street. And now you're not just hoping to get what you want, you're creating the conditions where it naturally happens. So if you want to consistently get what you want from women, stop trying to outtalk them, outsmart them, or convince them. Start listening. Start paying attention to what's underneath the words. That's where the real answers are. That's where the connection begins. The man who listens deeply rarely has to ask twice. If there's one thing that makes a woman truly open up, give freely, and stay invested, it's this: emotional safety. That's the foundation. That's what everything else rests on. You can have charm, looks, money, even perfect communication skills, but if a woman doesn't feel emotionally safe with you, none of it will matter. She might stick around for a while, but she won't be fully honest. She won't be fully honest. She won't let you in where it really counts. And if she doesn't feel safe, she won't trust you enough to give you what you really want. Now, when I say emotional safety, I don't mean walking on eggshells or being overly soft just to please her. That's not it. I'm talking about being the kind of man who creates a space where she can let her guard down, where she doesn't feel like she has to protect herself from judgment, manipulation, or emotional gain. A space where she knows that whatever she brings to you, her thoughts, her fears, her moods, you're not going to punish her for it, mock her for it, or use it against her later. That's what real safety looks like. A lot of men think strength means being tough all the time, emotionally distant or unaffected. But let me tell you something real. A man who's emotionally unavailable might attract a little attention, but he won't hold it. Not with a woman who values herself. Because that kind of woman is looking for depth, not performance. She's looking for consistency, not mystery. She wants to know that when she opens up to you, you're not going to disappear, shut down, or make her feel crazy for having emotions. Creating emotional safety starts with how you react. When she tells you something vulnerable, maybe it's about her past, her insecurities, or even a mistake she's just made. What's your first response? Do you listen without rushing to fix? Do you judge her? Do you make it about you? Those moments, the small reactions, are how she decides whether you're someone she can trust. And that trust, it directly affects how much she's willing to give you emotionally, physically, and mentally. It also shows up in your consistency. Are you who you say you are? Do your words match your action? Do you follow through on the little things, like calling when you said you would, or showing up when it matters? Because for a woman, inconsistency equals instability, and instability feels unsafe. You may not realize it, but every time you flake, every time you send mixed signals, every time you shift your energy without explanation, she starts to pull back. Maybe not in a big way at first, but it builds. And eventually, she stops trusting you with the parts of herself that matter most. Another part of emotional safety is how you handle conflict. Can you stay calm when things get tense? Can you disagree without getting defensive or dismissive? Women notice this. In fact, how you handle pressure is one of the fastest ways she decides whether she can trust you with her heart. If you explode, shut down, or throw things back in her face, you're telling her this space isn't safe for your emotion. But if you can hold your ground, speak with clarity, and stay grounded, even when she's emotional, that's where you build real respect. That's when she starts to see you not just as a man, but as her man. Let me be clear, emotional safety doesn't mean you're her therapist or her emotional punching bag. You don't need to carry her issues or absorb all her emotions, but you do need to be emotionally present. You need to be able to stand still when things feel messy, because that's what creates intimacy. That's what makes a woman want to go all in. When she feels safe to be all of herself around you, she starts giving more than you asked for, more affection, more loyalty, more support, because you've earned it, not by controlling her, but by creating the conditions for her to feel free in your presence. And here's the irony. When a woman feels safe, she becomes more playful, more spontaneous, more adventurous. So if you're trying to get what you want from women, whether it's cooperation, passion, or deeper commitment, the real leverage point isn't force, it's safety. Because women don't open up under pressure. They open up when they feel like they won't be punished for doing so. So the question is, when she's with you, does she feel like she can exhale? Or does she feel like she has to brace herself? Because the man who can create emotional safety never has to ask for trust. He just receives it. One thing that consistently throws men off when it comes to getting what they want from women is how often they ignore the power of masculine emotional control. And I don't mean shutting down your feelings or pretending to be some cold, unshakable rock. That's not control. That's avoidance. True emotional control is about mastering your emotions so they serve you, not sabotage you. It's about staying steady in your energy, no matter what she brings to the table. Because here's the truth. Women will test you, not because they want to break you, but because they want to feel the strength of your frame. And if your emotions are all over the place, if you're reactive, easily frustrated, or constantly seeking reassurance, she's not going to feel led. She's going to feel like she's the one leading. Emotional control is about having self-respect. It's being able to acknowledge your emotions without being ruled by them. When something triggers you, maybe she says something sharp, pulls away, or challenges your authority, can you hold your center? Can you breathe through the tension and respond from a grounded place instead of a wounded one? That's the moment of power. That's where the game is won or lost. Because when a woman sees that you don't crumble, don't lash out, don't chase validation, she relaxes. She feels like, this is a man who can handle life. This is a man I can trust with mine. Let's be honest, women are emotional. That's not a weakness, it's a fact. And when you're in a relationship with a woman, you're not just dealing with her words, you're dealing with her energy, her moods, her fears, her tests. If you get caught in her emotional current every time she gets upset, you lose your leadership, you lose your power. And when a man loses his power, he stops being attractive. That doesn't mean you ignore her or pretend nothing's wrong. It means you don't mirror her chaos. You let her have her moment without letting it pull you off your path. When she's spiraling, what she really wants to feel is your stability. Not silence, not withdrawal, but calm, firm presence. She wants to feel that you're not going anywhere, that you can hold space for her storm without creating one of your own. That's when she softens. That's when she starts looking to you, not away from you. Because deep down, every woman is drawn to a man who knows how to lead, not just in action, but emotionally. The one who doesn't need constant validation to feel secure. The one who knows who he is even when she's unsure of herself. But here's the part most men miss. Emotional control also includes controlling your desire. It's being able to want her deeply, openly, but not need her to validate you. If your mood rises and falls based on how much attention she gives you, she'll start to pull away. Not because she's cruel, but because she can feel the weight of your insecurity. The moment she feels like your emotions depend on hers, she starts to lose attraction. And when that happens, good luck trying to get what you want. You have to be able to want her without clinging, to desire her without demanding, to express your needs without emotionally collapsing when they're not met right away. That's strength. That's control. That's what earns her respect, not just her affection. Because respect is what keeps a woman giving. It's what keeps her invested. When she respects you, she wants to please you, wants to meet your needs. Not because you forced her, but because your strength gives her the freedom to relax into her feminine. And it's not about being perfect. You're going to have emotions. You're going to feel angry, disappointed, maybe even insecure sometimes. But the question is, do those emotions control you, or do you control them? When you're aware of what you're feeling and still choose to respond with intention instead of reaction, that's when you're in your masculine power. And women respond to that instinctively. It's not even conscious half the time. They just feel it. They feel safe. They feel drawn in. They feel like this is a man who can handle me. The key is remembering that control isn't about suppression. It's about direction. You're not here to bottle up your feelings and become emotionally numb. You're here to channel them, to turn anger into action, insecurity into clarity, fear into focus. That's what separates men who struggle from men who lead. And if you can lead yourself emotionally, you'll find that women will naturally want to follow your lead in every other area. Because the man who commands himself commands the room without saying a word. If you really want to get what you want from women, 99% of the time, there's one truth you have to accept. The game is played long before the words are spoken. It's not about saying the perfect thing or having the most clever line. It's about energy, posture, presence. And more than anything, it's about embodying the value you claim to have. Because here's the thing. Women don't just respond to what you say, they respond to who you are when you say it. That's the secret. Most men are out here trying to convince women of their worth. But the moment you're trying to convince, you've already lost position. Because value doesn't chase. Value doesn't plead. Value doesn't need to explain itself. Value is recognized. It's felt. So if you walk into any interaction already needing her to agree, to approve, to validate you, you're operating from a place of lack. And no matter how smooth your delivery is, she's going to pick up on that. Women are intuitive like that. They can feel the energy behind your words. And if your energy says, I need you to like me, she may smile, she may engage for a while, but eventually she'll pull away. because neediness kills desire. What you need to understand is that your ability to get what you want starts with how deeply you believe you deserve it. Not in an arrogant way, not in a fake it till you make it performance, but in a quiet, grounded confidence that says, I know who I am. I know what I bring, and I don't need to be anything other than that. When a man stands in that kind of energy, it's magnetic. Not because he's trying to attract, but because he is the attraction. That's when women lean in. That's when they listen differently, respond differently, give differently, because they feel like they're in the presence of someone solid. And let's not confuse value with status. A high value man isn't just someone with money, cars, or status. Those things might open doors, sure, but they don't sustain connection. They don't make a woman want to give you her time, her affection, her loyalty. That kind of desire is reserved for the man who knows his worth without flaunting it. The man who has boundaries, not walls, standards, not control. The man who is not trying to possess a woman, but invites her into something that already feels full. See, if a woman meets a man who doesn't need her to fill a void, who isn't desperate for attention or affection, she's intrigued. Because most of the men she meets are either chasing her approval or trying to dominate her into submission. But when you show up with calm confidence, when you're fully rooted in your own life, your mission, your peace, she feels that. And more often than not, she wants to be part of it. She wants to contribute. She wants to bring her best to match your best. And let's take it even deeper. A man who knows his value doesn't argue over petty things. He doesn't get pulled into emotional tug-of-wars. He doesn't panic when a woman tests his limits or pulls back for a moment. He doesn't chase, he observes. He stays grounded. He understands that if a woman doesn't recognize his value, that's not a loss, it's just misalignment. And he moves on with his dignity tact. That right there is one of the most attractive traits a man can have, because it shows that you value yourself enough not to beg, not to settle, not to cling to what isn't aligned. And when a woman senses that about you, something powerful happens. She starts to qualify herself to you. She starts to wonder if she can keep up, if she is what you're looking for. That's when the dynamic shifts. That's when you stop chasing and start choosing. And that's when getting what you want becomes effortless. Because now it's not about manipulation, it's not about strategy, it's about alignment. It's about attraction based on truth, not tactics. So how do you get to that place? You build a life you're proud of. You develop yourself, you stay disciplined, you get clear on what you want and refuse to settle for anything less. And most importantly, you treat yourself the way you want to be treated by others, because women take their cue from you. If you carry yourself like a man of value, they'll respond accordingly. If you don't, they won't. The man who moves like he already knows he's enough never has to ask for permission to receive what he desires.